Hey guys, and welcome back to another Improvement Season podcast. This is the second recording of the day, simply because I was away on holiday, but by the time of this recording, I'm back again. But we've pre-recorded it, of course. This time we are talking about Steve, who was a judge at the WNBF this weekend, and his experiences with it, his takeaways, how it was as a judge, and what it is that you can learn as a competitor and maybe as a coach yourself of the insights that Steve had now as being a judge. So Steve, first and foremost, how are you doing this time? So anything changed to 5 minutes ago?
I think I'm sweating a little bit more. I don't know why. I just can't. It's just this heat at the moment can't cool down. I'm looking forward to what was someone saying. They're like, because we're having the climate changes leading to like extremes of temperature. So they're like, we're gonna have the coldest winter to date. I'm like, so part of me right now that sounds appealing. I know when it comes, it'll be like, but cold doesn't sound so bad. How are you?
Also warm, but on German, we say like, das ein Freude ist des anderen Leid. So basically what other people are enjoying, other people are hating or basically suffering from. So for me personally, while I think it's too hot at the moment, it's something that I very much enjoy right now, at least, because I will be on holiday in just a couple of days from now at the Baltic Sea, and on the coastal side, it's always nice when it's a little bit warmer, because it is actually cooler than on the coastal side, with then kind of that warm wind coming from the seaside. It's just something that reminds me of my childhood, and I love that smell. I love that air, you know. And the last time that we've been on holiday while there was good weather is already kind of a long time ago. So I'm pretty much looking forward to that. And once again, other people are melting away, and I'm actually just like, yeah, this is actually the perfect time that is that warm for me, at least for the time frame of then the holiday.
So we're talking judging today. Otherwise, we'll probably take ourselves down another rabbit hole. So yeah, I was, like you said, a judge for the WNBF. First time I've ever been a judge. I was invited to be one, which is really cool. I don't know how they decide like who gets to be a judge, but from my perspective, I don't know if, Pascal, how many judging panels you've seen, but I don't know. I've seen a very real mix of judging panels, especially like WNBF Worlds. It's like a very mix of people. I think they have like, I don't know. I don't even know how they select them, but I guess it's people with experience in the sport. So it was an honor to be invited, because I guess that means they think I'm someone who has enough experience and knowledge of the sport to be able to judge the sport. Like that's like another level in the sport that I never really ever thought about. And I never really thought about being a bodybuilding judge. I don't know if you've ever thought about it, Pascal.
Not really, to be honest.
No. So when I did think about it though, I was like, hell yeah, that sounds really cool, because it's like I said on my Instagram post, it's like a new level of perspective and depth within bodybuilding, because not only do I get to like have that perspective, how does a judge feel when they're trying to judge someone on stage and see the symmetry, muscularity, condition, and like their posing routine and having to score that. What does the scorecard look like? How does the process work with the head judge and all these other aspects that I've just never actually kind of experienced? So yeah, I learned a lot. I think it's definitely made me, I think anyone listening, hopefully there's some tidbits that can make you a better coach, make you a better competitor. At least being a judge, I feel like has done that for me. So like it's even made me think about like how I present myself on stage, and it's emphasized some things that I think are really important, and given me some, again, just further insights into the sport that is bodybuilding and how it works because at the end of the day, who places well is down to the people on the judging table. Yeah. And also, because I had a woman on my right, she was, I think she's a figure competitor. Woman on my left, she was a fit body competitor. Then on the other side was another open men's bodybuilder, a men's physique competitor, and I can't remember the categories of everyone, but it was a mix of judging panel. I think there was 50-50 male and female as well, which I think is a good thing, because again, if they're males, they're never doing the female categories. So if all men are judging a female category, I don't know, it's nice to have a mix because there's subjectivity involved as well. So I think it's just a bit more of a balanced perspective. So yeah, I don't know if you have any particular questions, or I can jump down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, no, absolutely. First and foremost, of course, I find it very, very cool of an insight that you now then can share with your athletes, with the audience as well. And it's just good for you as an athlete yourself, or what it is that the judges are probably looking for, that you got that insight is just super valuable in my opinion. And also it puts things in perspective, because I think that the vast majority of people, they are quite nervous when it comes to stepping on stage, and in front of them is then that panel of judges, and they look very daunting to you as a competitor. Instead of like, oh no, these are human beings, it's like you feel that they are those very powerful or what is it called?
That's how I felt.
Yeah, aliens or so, who are now judging you or whether you're worthy to be a human citizen on planet Earth, right? When in reality, it's just perhaps even some bodybuilders themselves who are now sitting there, who have, of course, a more skilled eye set because they have worked with some other athletes, or maybe then experienced themselves as a bodybuilder. But of course, these are humans. They still only have like one pair of eyes. They perceive things the way that they perceive them. And of course, there will be areas where they may not be as skillful yet. And they can also then be there for maybe making mistakes and having their biases as well. And I think it is super valuable that you have gone through that experience yourself and that you're then able to share it now with us.
Yeah, it's interesting you say about like the perspective that you get as well, because even where I'm sat, so I was sat to the right of the head judge, and so anyone who was on the right of the stage furthest away from me, it's actually quite hard sometimes to fully see their physique. And I think Andy did a great job of moving people around so I could get a better perspective. But you're also looking at them, and I think something that I'd like to see improved maybe, and some feedback I'd give to Andy and Steph, would be like making sure the numbers are just as clear as possible, because like you're seeing the number and it's on the front, and this is what most federations do, I think. And then when they turn to the rear or side, like maybe you've lost that number and now you're like, oh, I can't exactly remember who that was. So there is definitely a skill involved with judging, because you also have to be good at making sure you see everyone, making sure that you're clear on the numbers, you have your sheet very easily laid out and things like this. So I guess people like to think, people like to think maybe that like bodybuilding is like objective, but I mean, and then it's more objective than bikini and men's physique, I would say, because there's more subjective natures to the scoring card for them. But for bodybuilding, even then, it's like, well, like you have to make sure that you've seen that bodybuilder very clearly. And I think that's why they have a panel of judges, because there's some on the left, there's some on the right, some will be able to see people a bit more clearly. So then it equates to like a more even scoring, if that makes sense. So it's like, I don't know, maybe this judge over here hasn't quite identified that there's such a quality competitor over here, but this judge over here has. So then the scoring comes together and it's hopefully very close, but then it comes to the best even decision for the best outcome on stage. And I don't think there was really any like top fives that I disagreed with in terms of like first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Most of them for me, I had the same on my scorecard, or at least maybe in the end. It's funny because you score them on muscularity, symmetry, posing, and then you give a total. And so you're not in enough of you haven't got enough time to identify exactly like, oh yeah, I know that number's this person's first. Like you score it all, and so then you give it in. Like I sometimes don't even know exactly what order like that person's in, if that makes sense. But then when they kind of call out the top five, I'm like, oh yeah, like that's in my head at least how my scorecard would have presented it.
That would have been my next question of like, what about the time? Did you feel that you had plenty of time to analyze each and every athlete who was on stage? Did you find yourself rushing through things of making a decision, or what was it for you?
So, like actually you said previously, like, because you'd be the same way, I'm sure, Pascal, you've been on stage, you know how much it takes to get to stage and how much the people on stage are like, how much they've invested into it. So I took the whole experience, as you can imagine, very seriously. So I was like, eyes on them, like trying to do everything as well as I could. But again, as it's a first time experience, as the day went on, I got better at being more efficient and better at like my process in terms of like splitting. I had like a separate note of paper with like my notes, and I'd like tally them to where I thought they were, and I'd like start scoring them as they went, and then I'd move around my scores, because there is a time crunch. So it is a skill to be a judge, I think, because especially in a big class, it's hard. And that's why like they have first call outs, because then the judges get to see, and it gives them a bit more of a fewer number of people to assess, so that they can get their top 5. And then they bring out like the second call outs, and then you can kind of rank them in order. But when there are bigger classes, it's definitely hard. When there's a smaller class, like 4 or 5 people, cool, you're only having to do like your top like 5. But when there's a class of like 20, you have to quickly, and it sounds kind of cruel, you have to quite quickly rule out who is not going to be in that top 5. Because then you get to focus on that top 5 and see who there then is the quality of that. And I've been outside of that top 5 as a competitor, and it's like I feel bad for anyone that is in that situation. But as a judge, to get the best top 5, you need to focus quickly down on who you think needs to be there.
And to be honest, it's not meant in a personal manner, right? It's never personal overall. When you're kind of judging, it's not that you know each and every competitor and you rule out the ones that you don't like, and you're actually taking the people that you like. It's not like this. You make a quick assessment of the situation, and you judge them based on their proportion, well, basically the criteria that are laid out for you that you need to judge them on. And if you need to make a quick decision, it's just what it is.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's actually funny you say that, because I know how much I've heard some people emphasize how important like it is to be like smiling and to be present and to be like wanting it. For men's physique and bikini, where that is part of the judgment, is like their hair, makeup, their smile, their skin tone, like that sort of aspect, and like their not personality, but their like energy almost, which again, all quite subjective things, which is why I think those categories are a little bit less subjective, a little bit harder to judge sometimes. But there are people that stand out with that sort of thing, I think. But for like bodybuilding, figure, these sort of categories, like I remember saying to the other judges, I was like, I barely look at their faces. Like I'm just like looking at their physiques. Like, okay, is this like an X frame? How are they like quad sweeping? How's their posing? Like these sort of things. So yeah, it was very interesting, and it made me, I think, better as a competitor, because like I will almost consider, I think I almost always just considered who's first based off them as a complete package. But in fact, when you're a judge, you judge them on symmetry. That's a separate score completely. And of course, like how lean they are and their other things can impact their symmetry. But symmetry as a standalone is like you score them separately, and they do their quarter turns. So even for me, when I pose now, especially for my front relaxed, I'm like, I'm going to need to hit that differently, because I'm getting scored down immediately on that shot, because I'm hitting it in a way that I think is aesthetic and looks cool, but it's not an X frame, which is what the judges are looking for. And so that can quickly, actually, you can end up being lost in the background potentially if you don't hit those well, because they're like, it's not really in the running for it because its symmetry is so off maybe. So you want to make sure to almost consider symmetry separately to their muscularity, which then comes in through the kind of posing when you actually like do a front lat spread, front double bicep, and those sort of aspects. So that was really interesting. And then at the WNBF, they also rate posing. So like your posing routine, there's quite a lot. And I mean, these are first timers and novice competitors, but I could tell a lot of them hadn't really like choreographed a routine so much. There was one guy that did a Naruto song, which I recorded and saved, because I was just like, as soon as I started hearing it play, I was like, this guy's got my heart. But obviously you're not rating it based off the song, but he had choreographed a routine to it too. So it actually was really, really nice and flowed. Whereas some people, I don't know, it was clear they hadn't really like they weren't quite posing to the music. They were just kind of throwing some things together. Some people can get away with that. Some people can't so much. But I think because it's some part of the criteria, like next time I go to compete, I'm like, I actually want to pay someone to help me choreograph a fucking sick routine, not just because it will look cool on like recording it and putting it on YouTube, because that's going to potentially get judged, and it could be the difference between you placing like first, second, third, fourth, what have you. The golden era round, which you probably remember.
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we pride ourselves on providing personalized service that will take your physique and knowledge to the next level. If you're interested, check the description and sign up.
I do.
Did you practice for the golden era round?
No.
No. So I said this that
because I thought that it's kind of it was free for you to decide whether you want to do the golden era round or not. And then all of a sudden, I think a lot of people expected that. And then everyone needed to get on stage to do the golden era round, and you could definitely see who didn't practice for it and who did.
So I would say, again, the majority of people, maybe some people might not have even been expecting it at all. The majority of people hadn't really practiced golden era poses, which again, it's like that doesn't go into your placing, but that's like a separate round. That was a bit harder because that was more time taken away from judging other aspects. So I don't know how much value that round brings. I don't know, like as a total thing and how much people enjoy it. But as a judge in those scenarios, I'm like, maybe I would have liked a bit more time on judging like the other criteria versus having that also dropped in there.
So basically making the classes being on stage for a little bit longer and then taking the time away from the golden era round and distribute it over to the classes.
Yeah, possibly. Just a big reason is because a lot of people just hadn't, like, they were just hitting mandatories, a lot of people. And I'm like, well, I've already judged your mandatories. I kind of now, if you aren't hitting a golden era shot, I don't really want to like I'm not going to rate you highly. So that was a bit tough. So I think even make it very clear to competitors, like there's a golden era round. These are golden era poses. Pick some of these. Don't just do your mandatories.
So now you've talked about what it is that you've learned as an athlete. Are there any kind of other things that you took away for you as an athlete, or?
Yeah, I think it just reemphasized how subjective it is, and so don't take it so closely to heart, because again, like I said, there's different people behind the judging panel, and they all have their preferences. They all have the division that they compete in, and again, their preferences within that, and then even down to like the head judge often calls like a top 5, and as like me judging, sometimes that top 5, it wasn't my top 5, and I was like, oh, okay. So then like that, I then had to kind of almost reconsider my judging and things like this. So it just re-emphasized that as a competitor. And I think that's a great thing for me to also re-emphasize to my clients, is just be like, just remember that it is really subjective, and they're not like the process is not perfect. I don't think it inherently can be a perfect process. So you could go to a different judging panel and do better because maybe you fit more of their subjective preferences, you know.
That would have been my next question, though. So we've talked about what your takeaways as an athlete. What were your takeaways as a coach? Are they different, or are they basically the same as the takeaways for an athlete?
I think similar, but really similar, because I just emphasize these same points. I think and I haven't said this yet, but I think it is important, whatever your first pose is that you're going on stage to hit, nail it with energy so that you get looked at. Because especially in a bigger class, like if you might have a fantastic physique, or it might be very close to a lot of other people's physiques, but if they present it better with more energy, they're going to be the ones who get called to be assessed more. So
in general, basically the normal front relax.
Yeah, front relax for like
nail the front
that's
relax.
Everyone, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also, if wherever you're competing hasn't got numbers from behind, like a lot of people say shows a 1 from behind, but if you haven't got a badge number on your back, like as a judge, I'm almost biased to the front shots because I can really clearly see the number, so it's a bit easier. Whereas like when everyone's turning around, and then I might look at another competitor, and then I might lose sight of that number. And so either like I'd love to see numbers on the back too, but people say it's 1 from behind. For me, it's more emphasize the fact that shows a 1 from the front, like, and those front shots, which I mean, I despise because my front shots are the worst. So I'm like, fuck that.
What can people then do in a situation like this so that they aren't really getting lost? So was there any kind of athlete that really stuck out to you when he was or she was on stage? And did they do anything besides just looking good from their physique that really caught your attention?
I think posing for the most part. Like some people had great physiques and they placed really well, but their posing still wasn't as good as it could be. Whereas I think some people posed their way into that top 5 because they didn't hide stuff.
Accessories such as posing trunks, the color of the posing trunk, because you now brought up like the example of shows one from the back, and if you don't have a badge there, and you're even saying that you're then losing track of the people, you need to have somewhat of a way of orientating yourself of where's the guy that I was looking for, right? And maybe if you're then wearing a trunk that is completely different to other people, such as, I don't know, you're wearing gold, you're the only one who wears gold, other people are wearing then something like, I don't know, blue or so, then you can pick them out more easily, something like this, maybe?
I wouldn't say, I don't remember thinking that. So as you suggest it, that makes me think that I that didn't orient myself. I'd be more likely to think like if someone was very tall, like it's a bit easier to like pick them out because they're so tall. But no, I can't think of anything like that. The only thing with posing trunks is I did notice, again, quite a few guys, they just don't, they need to yank them up so that it emphasizes the X frame, because it really makes, it just dampens their look quite a bit. So I think that's something a lot of male competitors could improve on. Women are generally very good at like picking bikinis and making those fit very well, and they have a bit of better eye on that sort of thing.
Did they this time have the mandatory of only black trunks for the first round?
I think they've removed that, or at least they didn't strictly keep that, if that makes sense.
I think that many people actually complained about it at the first WNBF because many people also didn't really have one with them because it never really was clear that it was a mandatory thing to have. And then when you're then stepping on stage, and I don't know, just sits a little bit weird for vast majority of people when you're then coming up and you don't know whether you are being downgraded because of this and stuff like this. So maybe,
I was going to say it's a good point because I wasn't so kind of focusing on necessarily like the rules. Like I was almost like if someone was hitting, I can remember this because it was one of your clients, previous clients who was on stage. I'm not going to name him just in case he doesn't want to be named. But I'd spoken to him a few times online and he spoke to me off air. But anyway, so this is why I remember it specifically. But he kept hitting his, I think it was like his rear relaxed with like a spiked calf. And he hit it like that every time. And Andy every time was saying like heels down. And like he clearly was like too focused on whatever he was doing and didn't hear it at all. But little things like that, I didn't judge him down for that. I don't know if the other judges would like judge him down for that. I didn't. So I think in my head,
because at least, first timers, and it's, I mean, if anyone knows what it's like to step on stage, and I'm not saying just like bodybuilding, I do remember what it was like when I was still in a band and stepping on the stage for kind of the first times. I still know that feeling and sensation. It is over in a second, it feels like. And it is somewhat of a numb feeling, numb sensation. It's like as if you can't move, but the body is moving and doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. But it feels like as if it's moving on its own, right? And then all of a sudden it's already over. And that's what I think that many people go through if they don't have the stage experience.
Yeah. And sorry, I had a load of thoughts run through my mind.
Oh,
but yes,
sorry.
with that, so no, it's fine. That's fine. It's so I don't know, like you said, maybe at like worlds level and like higher levels, that sort of thing could mark you down.
Yeah, probably.
But I don't know if that's a subjective decision on the judge or if like that is like I would talk to Andy and Steph. Maybe they would tell me like, no, you should have marked that person down, but I wasn't. And I don't think that is something like is a real strict thing. Like if it's just a small little posing deviation, like, because I think some competitors might think, oh, if I do anything wrong, I'm definitely going to mark down and that's going to really ruin my score. And things like, again, like little things like people know, like pulling up your trunks, having a darker tan, like they're not things I'm going to mark someone. Well, if their tan's completely off as a men's physique or bikini, maybe that impacts the mark. But as like a bodybuilder, it might just impact how you look and the muscle definition you have. It's not that you're getting marked down necessarily that your tan isn't great. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Two more things. How was it for you to really sit right next to the stage and then take a look at the athletes? Because it's a completely new perspective for you to then take a look at the athletes once they are posing. Normally, you either see them from the side when you're waiting in line to actually get onto stage, or you're just like sitting somewhere in the audience and looking at from above most of the time. How was it to see them from that perspective?
I think it was good because, again, as a competitor and a coach, you're posing to the judges, but when you're on stage, you pose to the audience. But you need to remember, as a competitor, and to do your best, you need to pose, to set up your poses so that the people looking up at you are viewing you at your best, not the people sitting like up the stage or in front of you. So it's fine to like look into the crowd and smile and be there present, but every pose should be set up, I think. And this has emphasized it more for me from the perspective of someone looking below up at you, because the judges are always a little bit below you.
Yeah.
And you could set up poses in ways that look maybe the best straight versus from the bottom up. But it was also it was really amazing for the most part. Like, there was no part of me where I felt like upset for anyone, or like I could see like the disappointment in anyone's face. Everyone was really, I don't know if this is partly the kind of atmosphere and energy that Steph and Andy have created at the WNBF, but everyone just was like loving it on stage. And there was some particular, like some athletes who were just like, they're just so much energy and just and to see them place and then like have tears in their eyes, and like I felt it, like it was an emotional thing for me to see that. And I think that's why I enjoyed the most, was just seeing the camaraderie between the athletes and like all of them like shaking hands, giving them fist bumps, and like being so happy for one another. And even if they're sat at the back, like you were actually, I remember vividly watching you, and you didn't get a top placing in the novice for the WNBF, but you were there smiling, congratulating everyone. And that's what I want to see within the sport, because everyone there deserves to be happy and proud of what they achieved.
Yeah.
And so I hate to see someone at the, like, who maybe didn't get the placing they want, to be really sad about that. And I understand, like, we all want, and I've been there, like, being a bit miffed with a placing, and that's fine. But like overall, it's just amazing to see that people are like so happy for one another and bring that energy to the sport, versus like, I know it's a competition, but at the same time, it's everyone's individual journey to get there, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. And it kind of reiterates and emphasizes the things that we've talked about, that the judges, they are just humans after all. They have to judge a lot of people on the same day, and it has nothing to do with you personally or anything alike. They need to come up with a quick decision, and sometimes it can even be that you may be the better person, right? But maybe in that given moment, not in the eyes of one of the judges, for example, or some of the judges. That's why, though, they have a panel of judges, so that the error margin is actually decreased as well. But at the end of the day, what also then comes up is, how many people have you judged on the weekend, Steve? Can you say kind of a rough number?
Yeah, there was like 150 competitors.
All right. So
that's a lot.
But I want the listeners and especially the competitors to keep that in mind. If you as a judge on the entire weekend have to judge 150 people, for example, based on those 3 criteria, and you're then coming up to the judges afterwards and asking for feedback, how much do you think that you will get a very, very qualified answer in return, a qualified feedback? Chances are even that they don't really remember you that well, unless you were the winner who stood very much out or so, right? And then based off of that, asking them for feedback, I don't know how valuable that is, and I've been always skeptical about it.
Yeah,
and it's not their obligation to give you like a proper feedback of like, okay, this is what you have to improve. This is something that you need to discuss with your coach most of the time, and that should be very clear from the get-go, actually, instead of a judge being the one telling you what you need to improve on. And once again, chances are it's just something that they don't even know that well at the end of the day, after having judged 150 people, 150 different physiques on 3 different criteria. It's way too hard for them to tell like exactly this is what you have to improve, unless you really left a mark in their head. They can immediately tell like, yeah, I do remember you, and that was the one thing that I thought that you need to definitely improve upon. And that's why I think it would also be unfair for the coaches, and also people shouldn't really put too much emphasis or value in the feedback that a judge can provide. You can take this on, of course, but you shouldn't really base everything around that of whether you are now a happy individual or a dissatisfied individual. Don't base it off of this.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point because I wanted to talk about it. I think I've had, I must have replied to about, it's actually taken quite a bit of time because as you know me, like I take it very seriously. I take being a judge very seriously. I've had about 10 competitors reach out to me for judging feedback. I was just saying to Charlotte, I'm like, this is like a job. Like my job is coaching people, and this feedback is like, it's like part of my job. Like I really enjoy it, but it's because obviously it's not like a paid thing like that I'm doing it.
Especially because you had to look everyone up over on Instagram just to remember who it was.
This is the thing though. So I didn't get asked feedback on the day by many people. There was only one guy who, again, I already knew him via Instagram and I had him placing like second, like he very was clear in my mind. So I was able to give him lots of feedback. But a woman asked me for her category, like for feedback. And I was like, you know what? Honestly, there's been so many competitors. Like seeing you now, all I can see is your face. I'm not really looking at faces. Like I said, I don't even know necessarily what category she was in. So even if I don't know if they give me their number. Again, I don't know even, like I don't have a sheet that says that number was in this. Like on the day I did, but right now I don't have all of that with me. So I said to her, like, if you've got some photos from the day that can jog my memory to remind me of who you were. Not naked, preferably on stage, so I know kind of where you were, what number you were. And I said this to a few
without your face and without clothing.
So anyway, so I got some of like where I got people reach out to me on Instagram, and it's funny how many people I could remember.
Yeah.
Or again, because I'm a coach, I can see from the photos they're sending me things they can do to improve just from assessing their physique rather than necessarily like their stage presence and everything. So I completely agree with you though, because I know this is a bias because I think I'm a good coach, and I think actually people asking me for feedback, they're probably going to get I would say a really quality answer that's going to help them in the long run. But because I'm doing things like in the short term, you can probably do this. In the longer term, this. Whereas a lot of judges would be like, man, you need more condition, more mass. And I'm like, well, you obviously can't improve your muscle mass between now and the supernaturals. It's just unlikely that you're going to be able to grow any muscle, particularly as a natural, significantly between that time. But you can improve this to bring out your lats more, do this, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I don't know if there's a boundary as a judge to how much feedback you can give, because it does then turn into, like, especially because I'm a coach, like it just can quickly turn into coaching, and you want to help, because we are coaches, we want to help people as much as we can. But I also, like you said, I don't want to step that boundary and be like, but do what your coach is suggesting, because you and your coach will probably know. And I did have some people feedback and be like, cool, you said virtually everything I was thinking, a few extra things, so that's great. And people have been really appreciative of the feedback. So, but I think it can be hit or miss with judges' feedback, for sure.
Yeah, and also I think that if you don't like your placing, I think it's also very important to bring it up as well. Don't blame the judges. I mean, yes, the placing is the reason by the judges, or that they've placed you where you've placed, of course, but don't blame them for not having given you the placing that you wanted or you think that you deserved. I think that would be unfair for the judges as well. And always remember, take a look at Steve. I know Steve has big biceps and all that kind of stuff, but he is human after all. And I think it's super important to actually highlight that, because it's so easy to forget that these are just like normal bodybuilders and humans sitting there in the judging panel, and they try to make the best decision on that day.
Yeah. And actually that's a really good point in that, like I said, I score people on the various categories and then I top them up. And I had people with, like, I can remember several times where I had the same score because they'd done better or worse in various categories. So I get like 6, 6, 6. And now I'm like, right, I have to place this person like four, like, I don't know, it might be third, second, and fourth. And I'm like, I have to now make a decision. And it's kind of like a bit of a split decision, because I'm also like, have to look up and like remember them and this sort of thing. Because like, and I could see how you might not get that perfect on the day. And again, that's why you have the rest of your judging panel to help you out with those sort of things. But it's like, you could, it legitimately happens where you have matched. Like, so you might think, I came 5th, but you might have been matched for a lot of judges on various categories.
Yeah.
And so there's still things you can improve upon. That's why I love bodybuilding too, because there's symmetry, muscularity. Like, so it's not always the biggest guy or the most conditioned guy. It's the best package of all of it together that brings about that athlete. So yeah, I thought that was a good thing. And then the other thing, I don't know how much I should say about this. I'll say a short bit. Basically, when you do like the pose down to music and you're like posing down with all the other competitors. I've never liked that as a competitor because it always feels a bit like, I don't know, maybe I'll get into it more now. I'm like, and especially now I realize the judges aren't scoring that. I don't think. As a judge, I wasn't looking at people to score them at that point because at that time, they're basically, I feel like most of the time it's for the audience, and it's to allow the judges to spend time like totting up their scores and like doing all of that work. So I don't know, as a competitor, don't take that too seriously. Like the pose down at least was a take home for me. So yeah.
No, absolutely. Anything else that we haven't really touched on that you think is important to actually bring up?
Yeah, just I think as a competitor, sometimes I think it's easy to get frustrated that the shows are running long, and they are long days, and it was a very long day that we were there. But I have now, at least when I'm there, I respect that more, because if it was shorter, like the judges aren't going to have their best like scores for you. So if it runs a bit longer, know that that's because it's going to get the better quality scoring for you and judging for you. And the hard thing is, though, when you get to like there was a complete freak in tall men's bodybuilding, absolutely absurd. Like I swear, like pro caliber, absolute freak. Like he is, I don't know how he's a first timer. Shredded glutes, huge, like gigantic. He would have won the overall if he had stuck around. I have no doubt about it. But he had left.
Oh,
so it's like,
all right.
So I was like, so if that's one of the interesting things where it's kind of like if you pick and choose, you do this show over here or this show over here. Well, one could have better competitors than the other, so you might place better at one or the other. Or like someone, if you stay longer and you stay for your overall, but someone else leaves, like now you have a better chance. So it's just interesting because even the final scoring might not be the like what would have happened, because there was a few categories where people had left that we were going to judge, and I was like, oh, that person's left. I had them at like second, and now it was like everyone else got bumped up a place. So that was interesting.
No, absolutely.
But those are more like functions of the day versus like anything else.
I think it was very, very interesting to listen to you talking about your experiences of being a judge. And are you planning on doing this hopefully more often in the future?
I believe, unless I've done anything in this chat that means that it won't happen. Hopefully I haven't. Hopefully I've been like, I feel like we always try and be on these. I've been very open about everything, and like hopefully people have taken something away from it. But yeah, so as long as I haven't done anything in the meantime to mean that it won't happen, I should be a judge at the Supernaturals, so the WNBF Supernaturals. So, and maybe like a judge for the WNBF is like a position, which would be amazing.
That would be great,
the team there are awesome. And it's nice that CMP also, who are my sponsor, at the show. So I have like a team of people I know there as well. So it feels really like it's a fun weekend for me, even though it's like a working time. It's really fun. And again, I get to have more time with athletes, which is really cool to see. Like some people came up to me and were like, we listened to the podcast and I've got loads of value from that. And like I applied that to my comp prep, and it's like, wow, like that's so cool that we can help people like to stage in a way where, so hopefully more.
Absolutely. And once again, very, very interesting, just you talking through it, your experiences, your takeaways and everything. And I really do hope that people took a lot of things away from it. If you want to actually take even more away from it, then we have now collected a contest prep package that you can get over on our website, revivestronger.com. You can find a link to it here over somewhere in the corner, and then also down below in the description. There you will then get access to the ultimate guide to contest prep, the ebook that we did with the guys from JPS, then also the seminar footage that we did with them together as well, where we are then for presentation, Steve, Jacob, Lyndon, and I talking about specific topics around contest prep. Also, you will get access to the seminar footage with Cliff Wilson, where there's a lot of discussion around peak week, and then a handful of presentations there as well, all talking about specifically things around contest prep, like how to create your own posing guide, post-show period, all that kind of good stuff. This is 10 hours, over 10 hours worth of presentations. Wow. And then also over 160 pages long of an ebook. So everything that you need to know about contest prep, you can then find there in this package for a price of £99. And I don't think that you need anything else after that anymore. And if you then have still some questions, I would be very surprised, but it really takes you through an entirety of everything around contest prep from start to finish. And go check it out. Leave then a comment in the comment section below once you've checked it out and let us know how you find it. And other than that, guys, I'll leave it now here. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I guess I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal Steve. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge. And I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.